Welcome to Virtual Coffee with Dawn Rickabaugh, the Note Queen, where we talk about owner financing and notes. Financial solutions, one mom and pop to another.
Okay. Well, welcome to Virtual Coffee, anything having to do with owner financing and notes. My name is Dawn Rickabaugh, notequeen.com, and I really look forward to hosting these every month. And it looks like today that we can just sort of talk off the cuff. Of course, owner financing and notes, I mean, just for me, I've made drawn a personal line in the sand. Actually, Walter Wofford, back in Jackson, Mississippi, was the one that made me finally sort of commit to that. I was dancing around it, but just to show that you can do a lot of deals. Not that there isn't a place for traditional financing, there absolutely is, but just to show that you can do a whole life and a whole business without ever applying for a bank loan. That's just kind of how I've evolved and what I keep doing. So either it's cash or sometimes private money for a flip if I'm doing that, but more often it's just owner financing. I'm buying properties with owner financing. The lender turns into my bank, or I'm the lender. I carry paper for another buyer, borrower, or I buy other people's paper. So time to make the phone go quiet. And so to me, it's just a way of saying, hey, we can have a whole economy that is liquid just with mom and pop creating solutions one to another. And that's just what really charges me up, to create that sort of unplugging from the system, the wealth vampires of Washington and Wall Street, I like to call them. But hopefully at some point we may have a little more of an honest money system. I'm always hoping out for that, although many call me naive, but oh well. Could be called worse. Anyway, I would like to open it up. Axel, real quick, can you do your housekeeping items?
Absolutely. For anybody joining the call, you can unmute yourselves. On the bottom left corner, there's a little microphone. Simply click that and you can jump in and ask any questions or comment on what Dawn's talking about. If you're calling in from a phone, you can press *6 and that'll also unmute you. We try to keep the call quality at the best level possible. So if you have a noisy background, please just be courteous and mute yourself. If you have difficulty muting yourself, I will help you. And we're looking forward to a lot of participation. I do have Pat Jackson.
Oh, Pat.
He's one of the guys that emailed in his question.
Oh, God. Is this the same Pat I've been needing to email you back for a couple of weeks? Probably it is.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Hey, Pat, can he get on the line?
Yeah, let me. There's two. There we go. Are you there, Pat?
Hello. Yeah, it's here.
Are you in here in Carson, or are you back?
I live in Reno.
Oh, Reno. Well, same.
Yes.
Different. No, I'll let you slide in with the in crowd there. But yeah, so well, great to talk to you. Usually you're at the meetups, so this is a different way to connect. How fun. What's going on? I know that you sent me an email at least a couple weeks ago, and this is a good time to bring up that I'm not really great at doing a ton of email things for most people, although I'm sorry, Pat, in your case. But just I have my.
I'm not. I don't need an apology. It's totally fine.
Okay, just so you guys know that like I'm just like me and a couple of us. It's a small family operated investment company buying both property and paper. So I don't make my money sitting at my desk all the time, so it's hard for me to. So please forgive me, anyone who's emailed and just doesn't get a response or a really slow one. I do apologize. I do the ways that I can connect are through my meetup group once a month and through this call once a month, and a little bit of paid consulting if someone really wants to just get me one-on-one on their terms. Just in case someone doesn't know, you can log in here. I probably can't even log into my account, but there's a dashboard here where you can, there's a ton of archived material. I always forget how to do this.
Yeah, I've been listening to the archives, which inspired me to call in.
Oh, okay. Well, what's going on? You know what? When I was speaking in Kansas, was that just last week? I have no idea what day it is. It's just been 10 days ago now.
Yeah, it was in Kansas, yeah.
Yeah, because your friend Matt was there.
Yeah. My friend Matt, who I've done some business deals with, attended your meetup.
Yeah, well, that and just for anyone looking, here it is. Where if you log in, you can get all my content and things like that assembled in one place. But it was so funny because it was like a throwback to our Carson City meetings because right at the end of the call, he came up like on the whiteboard just like you do a lot of the times. So it was super valuable and fun because we ran through actually, a deal that he's theoretically in his mind putting together. So that was really a fun, unexpected connection. So blah blah on my end. But
he was excited to go to that. I'm trying to get him to come out in October to attend your summit.
Oh, that would be cool. So do you want to talk about anything in particular, like an extension of what we were talking about last month or anything?
A little more in the weeds from last month. So I've been researching contract for deed a lot, and I know in your book you're not a big fan. And I invest in Missouri. I live in Reno, Nevada. For everybody else on the call, and so I spoke with a local Missouri real estate attorney who just kind of gave me prices and her experience, which was fairly positive. And the title agent that has done a lot of contract for deeds said, warned about maybe some liens being on the place. And I listened to some other favorable podcasts. And then most recently I had another conversation with another real estate attorney in Missouri, and he didn't have enough bad things to say about contract for deed, and at least claimed that he had an agreement with his malpractice insurance that he would never draft one. So I kind of have two questions, and my first one is there ever a situation where you would favorably look upon a contract for deed, or do you always just keep those away with a 9-foot stick?
Well, I guess everything, there's always exceptions to everything, but I guess just as a general rule, I just never want to be on title. I know that usually I used to think, and look, I am not like, a big expert in contract for deeds. Okay. It's just sort of how I've evolved in my own personal thing and sort of my preferences, and then a couple experiences and that I've heard of other people. But there's a lot of people that will buy them up, left and right. They'll just soak it right up. But for me, as a small-time operator, I really don't want the extra. I mean, I have enough to deal with in my portfolio of things that, go bad even in the best of situations. And I just really don't like being on title because then you have a lot more liability. But I'm really open. Why don't you give us just like a little bit of a download of the positives, since I'm being all like, throwing shade on and stuff.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. So there are some other folks in this market that have an agreement with the bank, and I've spoken to the same bank, and this bank allows wrap mortgages as long as the title is not recorded in the end buyer's name until the bank's debt's paid off, which I think that's obvious. And so these guys are really just getting some lowball deals every once in a while off the MLS, not really doing much work, and turning around and selling financing at a higher price at a higher rate, and then their split is somewhere between $400 or $500 a month. Some of the other things I've seen these guys do is a little loosey-goosey. And from what I can tell, for instance, they just, I think, downloaded a contract for deed online and had a lawyer look at it once and said, yeah, that ought to work. And then they're drafting their own paperwork. And that, I want to be a lot cleaner than that. And so when I don't know about something, I tend to look in several different places and ask several different people. And if there's a common theme, I start to feel confident about what the answer is. But when it comes to contracts for deed, the responses they're just all over the place, from they're the best thing ever to I would never be involved in one.
Right. So, I mean, case in point, like lots of times they've said, well, my attorney said this, and I'm like, ask 100 attorneys. And you're really going to get, a lot of variety usually on those topics. So, it seems like in our business, but so let's just go back to the thing that does work. So basically, let's put real numbers to that contract for deed kind of an arrangement of the guys that love it. They have an agreement with the bank. The bank doesn't mind them wrapping with the contract for deed as long as title stays there. Because that's sort of curious in a way. So it's technically any long-term lease or a lease with an option to buy that's longer than 3 years, has the same sort of breach of contract as, usually will trigger the due-on clause, the same as if you transferred title. So in this case, you've got an underlying bank to say, hey, we understand that you're going to have a longer-term contract, longer than 3 years, giving someone potential equitable interest. And we're okay with that as long as title stays in your name and you're on the hook. So in this case, you originated it, which is maybe a little, then you control a lot of the factors, and instead of you buying someone else's contract for deed, you know what I mean? So
Right, exactly.
So what's the number? So let's make up some.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I think you could be into a house for $40,000 total. There's a guy that's selling a house for sale by owner, and so this bank would want 20% down, and so let's just say that's $8,000 down, where they'd loan $32,000 at 6% over 20 years.
Okay, we're just throwing this up on the calculator to follow along. What is it really? I was under the impression that these, like, below 50,000, the banks aren't really worth their time to put the deal together, but they're doing them for you, huh? Out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of houses south of $50,000 all over Missouri, and these are local banks that only span a couple counties.
Gotcha.
And do a pretty loan on south of 50,000 really often.
Okay. Well, okay, this is fantastic. So what would, just out of kicks and giggles, what would it rent for?
I think you could probably sell it for,
Rent.
you could have somebody finance for 60,000, and then there'd probably be an additional down payment on top of that. The market value of the house is 50,000, and so you could sell a little higher.
So if you can buy it for 40 and it's worth, you already have instant equity of 20%, it sounds like, right? Almost, yeah, 50,000, and you're in it at 42, you put down 8. So the bank's in a pretty safe position because the cash value or as is value is 50, right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so then what would it rent for if you're just landlording this out? What would it rent for?
Yeah, that's a great question. It has rented $650, which I feel is super safe, but it would probably rent for $700.
Probably. All right. Well, let's take 700. And when you're a landlord, from your gross rent, how much do you put aside for reserves out of everything?
25%, 10 for repairs, 10 for vacancy, and 5 for CapEx. So actually, sorry, no, that's 25%.
Okay, so you would say, I'm going to say that I'm going to keep 75% of my gross rents, right?
I would put aside 25%, and then I'd have that other 75 to pay taxes, insurance, property management.
So the 25%,
go from there.
Does the 25% cover taxes, insurance, and repairs and management and all that?
I'm sorry, I don't have these numbers all in front of me. So
no, it's okay. I'm just talking theoretically, because I usually go, okay, 65%. If I get 700 in, I put 35% of it away for all the taxes and things, and building reserves towards a more expensive repair. Does that seem like a good number? Or does that seem low or high to you? 35%.
No, I think that's fine.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get apples to apples for people here. So really, you're going to get in for you is 455, and you only owe the bank 230, so you're like a 320 positive cash flow on there, which is awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to write that down. So you can't kind of lose there, except for what don't you want?
Well, I mean, I don't live in Missouri, and if they don't cut their grass, or if they
Right.
put an addition to the house and don't draw a permit, and the city places a lien on the place, and then I have to initiate the contract for deed and kick them out, I still have a lien, and it's a little unclear to me what my options are from there. I mean, obviously I have a headache, but I don't know whether my options are to clean my title up to then be able to sell the house again.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just the hassle factor. You're wondering, I wonder if I can get that 230 or yeah, is that right? 230 or so positive cash flow without that sort of exposure to the headache, right? So that's why,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, it doesn't hurt to build long-term equity owning a bunch of properties. You're a young guy. You're in your 30s, right? Somewhere.
Correct. Yes.
Building now, and by the time you're in your 60s, you own a bunch of properties free and clear, the tenants paid off. Not a bad strategy either, right? And you build equity. You maybe have a little exposure there, but you have the best tax treatment pretty much that you can get with holding real estate, and you have an appreciating asset theoretically, right?
Yeah, there's not a ton of appreciation in this market, but there's a little bit.
Right. Okay, but at least like a note eventually pays off, so it's a depreciation.
Yeah.
And then boom, it's gone, and you have to, right? So redeploy your money. So, all right, so then next, if you decide to wrap with a contract for deed, you've got this local bank. That is a phenomenal story. And I love those personal relationships. Now, those little local banks seem mom and pop to me. They would fit into my mom and pop scenario a whole lot better, than the big, ginormous things that
Yeah, absolutely.
understand so much. But so then instead of renting it, now let's do your contract for deed. Like these guys that are doing this model and they're really into it and they've got their legal people and all that involved. Are they doing like RMLO? Or are they pushing them through underwriting?
They are not using an RMLO, which is actually the next set of other half of my question. But
I think they should be.
and I do too.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I think Ted Cruz is trying for the third time to get rid of the CFPB or something. And I really hope, but really there is a place for some standards, really. And I didn't think that until I met a group of really, really crooked people that were basically a stain on our industry and very fraudulent and predatory in their practices. And I'm like, hey, CFPB was for, in our industry was for these kind of people that are just, I don't have a lot of good things to say. I'll try not to swear because that's not that I'm a lady, but it's not ladylike. So anyway, all right. So how much if it'll sell for 60, right?
Yeah.
If it'll sell for 60, then how much down would you?
Well, when I do this, I'm pretty sure you could get a 6 or a 10% down payment on top of that. But if you can run the exercise either way, and full transparency, I have yet to fully explore what the average down payment is for buyers in this market. Obviously, the smaller the down payment, the more buyer pool you have access to, but the riskier it is. So I think it's realistic to get 10%, but I'm not 110% sure.
Okay. All right. So let's pretend like you're in it for 40 and it's worth 50 as is. You're going to sell it for 60. Fair enough. You get a premium for offering the financing, right? And you can create an affordable. So let's say you do get your 10% down. So 60,000 and you got a 90% contract for deed installment contract with them, right? Basically, for anyone who doesn't know a contract for deed, it's basically like a layaway plan for a house. You pay on it. You do have a recordable interest. It's recorded interest in the property, but you're not on title, and you don't get the title until you pay it off. So anyway, so if they put 10% down, we've got 54,000, right? Is 90% of
Yes.
60,000. And going back to what these people can afford, do you think it's basically the same? They can afford what they would normally rent for?
Yeah, I tried to walk back in my exercises where they'd pay $650 a month. I think that would be a really, if I could advertise that their monthly payments would be less than rent, that would be appealing. And I just guesstimate $100 a month out of their pocket for taxes, insurance, and escrow fees.
Okay, so that out of 650, 100 for T&I, taxes and insurance, and sounds like you're going to make them pay for servicing. Okay, and then so basically that leaves $550 for P&I, principal interest, right? So
Yes.
So that their PITI, principal interest, taxes and insurance, total $650. And what sort of I mean, just for kicks and giggles, I mean,
insurance would be, I got a quote the other day for $35 a month.
$35 a month?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's affordable. So I'm just reverse engineering this. So basically, this is a really nice number, right? Turns out that if you charge 9%, they can fully amortize this in 15 years, which is really attractive, right? Or do you want to run longer? I mean, what's the bank is 240, right?
Yeah, the bank would like it if I would go 180 months, but they will go 240. So I would probably want my amortization schedule to at least match up with theirs. I think that might make them nervous if whenever I show them these numbers that the individual paying the house off is going to be done in a shorter time than I am.
Yeah, I think they would like that. But if you just matched, look, you've got 485. Our last number for rents, right? After your 35% reserves, right? Actually,
Yeah.
you have more. 485. You got $35 more a month, and theoretically less hassle because they're doing the maintenance, right? And the taxes and insurance pass through to them, right? They're paying it.
Correct.
So now instead of 230 and being on the hook for, potential headaches, you've got 45 minus 229. You guys, I live off of this iPhone app. You gotta have it, and just if you nothing else, learn the top 5 buttons. So now instead of 230 a month, you have 256 and way less headaches and theoretical issues.
Yeah, I see a contract for deed or a deed of trust and selling off a partial as trading convenience for equity. I enjoy finding distressed properties and working with my agent and contractor to buy them and fix them up. And I haven't ever placed a buyer instead of a tenant, but I would imagine I'd enjoy that. What I don't like is 6 p.m. on a Friday seeing my property manager's number show up on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah, but just for kicks and giggles, if in a way you already have a partial in place because you got the bank money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well,
so in this case, let's just run this, okay? And what if you did this? You have a note for 54,000. The 6,000 covers your closing costs, holding costs, whatever. So a little bit of eat money, hopefully. Well, it almost gives you back your 8,000, not quite, right? Not quite your 8,000.
right.
But you don't have very much left in this, right? 5,000 or something, if you don't have to fix it up at all, right? This is not counting any rehab costs. So if you give this whole payment So you don't need to sell off a partial. The bank's there, and they're good with this game, right? And the loan balance
Yes.
for them is only 32, and the interest you're paying them. So if you pass through this whole payment instead of saying, "Hey, I want the $200 now," if you just gave it to the bank, you'd have them done in less than 6 years, and the rest of it is like, woo! Now that's some decent money, right? Right. So
Right.
you have 180 months that the contract for deed person's paying you. After 70 payments to the bank, you have 110 payments of 547 coming to you. So you have another 60 grand, and you already mainly got your money back already. So you know what I mean? I mean, you only had 8,000 left in this deal, and then you're getting 60. It's not often that you can turn $8,000 or whatever, $5,000 into 60,000 and have this little retirement account plan happening for you, so that you can
I
maybe
agree.
you can retire in your 40s instead of your 60s.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, well, this is fantastic. Before we move on or take some other comments about this situation, was there any more that you were wanting to chat about?
Well, on your RMLO comment, I can't find one in Missouri. I've talked to various lawyers and title agents. I did find one, and what I understand is I need a mortgage license officer that basically owns their own institution and is okay recording and creating a note for me instead of their institution. And the one I could find thought that this was distasteful and that the demographics of people buying, seller finance houses would ultimately fail. And they, I think, thought I was predatory, and I didn't feel like I should try to change his mind, which I'm not looking to be predatory.
Okay, how is it you're predatory, but for the same price as rent, they're going to own something and build some wealth instead of being an eternal cycle of renter?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, he 5 minutes. I listened to him for 3 to 5 minutes before that opinion on how he's done this 30 plus years and he's looking to kind of start slowing down. This is all over the phone. And so anyway, it was just on a break from my W-2 job, and I thought I would do better to just look elsewhere.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's the exact opposite for me, because you know what? Us mom and pops work with people that own their houses, generally the majority of us, where banks, they don't get paid, man. They have no trouble foreclosing on people. Just turn them through the foreclosure. I know a lot of the mom and pop kind of shops, if they buy non-performing notes, usually they're trying to help the people stay in their homes. I don't think most people are gleefully doing this in the background. I can't wait to kick everyone out, but of course you have to, right? You're a landlord, you need to have a spine sometimes, and you got to play tough guy and evict people, and you're a note holder, mortgage holder, whatever. If they don't pay, they can't stay. I mean, it's just how things work, right? I mean, I wouldn't treat my kids any differently. If they have to, they don't pay, they don't stay, right? So why would I treat a total stranger, enabling them more than I would my own children, who are all amazing in their late 20s. I really respect all of them. But anyhow, that is really awesome feedback. Have you tried, just a quick thing, have you tried Texas Pride? I think they might underwrite deals in a few neighboring states. You should call them. They're Texas.
I did touch base with a Texas RMLO, and I'm pretty sure it was them, and they said that they were hoping to work in Missouri in about a year.
Oh, they're not doing it now though?
Right.
It's so funny. I thought there was a guy that sold me that portfolio that I've had such a struggle with back there. I thought he was working with an MLO.
Well, and that's a recommendation I have for my next step, is to contact somebody that bundles and sells notes, and they would probably know somebody that would originate. And Anyway, for my sake, and then also the callers, I'm of the opinion that I can work with a local attorney and my title company and originate 3 loans a year or notes a year, and then after that, I legally, according to Dodd-Frank, have to use an RMLO. But then, equally important to me, these notes would be easier to sell if I wanted to, if they were originated by an RMLO. Are those both accurate?
That would be my opinion. And so if you find out, whatever you find out, it'd be great to be able to share with people, because I only have my little scope of the business. You're really into that. That's why these calls are great, because a lot of people come from different parts of the country and with different experiences. So
sure. Well, I will gladly report back.
I would be very appreciative, and I hope, are we going to see you this month at the meeting?
Yeah. God willing, the creek don't rise.
Well, let's see. Washoe Lake isn't threatening to get over the 580 just yet. So. Well, thank you so much, Pat. That was really awesome. Does anyone want to comment? Let's open up the line regarding the conversation that Pat and I have just been having. Any questions, comments, contributions of things that you know or experiences you have?
Hey, Dawn and Axel, this is Mark Bruce. Can you hear me?
Hey,
Yes.
Mark.
I have an RMLO that will work nationwide, and he's fantastic. His name's Russ O'Donnell.
Russ O'Donnell.
And his company is calltheunderwriter.com.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
He's very reasonable, $300 to $400, and
It is very reasonable.
he'll put his fee on the settlement sheet for closing.
Wow. So he's fully licensed. Does he do do they do servicing? Is that why it's expensive to be licensed in every state.
He does not do servicing. He just does underwriting.
Well,
I've used him about 4 or 5 times. He's been fantastic.
oh, thank you so much. Bruce, where are you hailing us? Or Mark, you have 2 first names. You confused me. Okay.
I do. I'll answer to either one. I'm in Baltimore.
Oh, you're in Baltimore. Fantastic. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I'm sorry, what was his last name?
It's Mark, and last name is Bruce.
Bruce. Yeah, Mark Bruce. And
Okay, well, thanks a bunch. That might be the best news I get all day.
yeah, calltheunderwriter.com. Thank you so much.
Calltheunderwriter.com.
Oh, great.
I'm in my car. If you want to take down my cell phone, just in case that's not the exact right website.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
It's 443 622 0007.
Fantastic.
You're a brave man to throw your number out on the World Wide Web.
I trust everybody in Dawn's domain.
Oh, what?
I appreciate that.
That is a really sweet thing to say. Well, thank you. I mean, stuff like that this is why you need a group of people. Like operating in a vacuum is no good.
Hi, Dawn.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Kenesha.
Kenesha. Oh, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Speaking of that, you're in California, right?
Yes, I'm in California. I just wanted to second what Mark was saying. I was actually looking for the business card. I met Russ at the Noteworthy event in Irvine. What was that? Back in March, and he's awesome. So I was actually looking for his business card to provide the information, but Mark already gave it. So yeah, I would definitely suggest anyone to reach out to him. I'm in California, but Russ, he reaches everywhere. So he's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable, been in the business for years. So definitely reach out to him.
Are you keeping up your own license still, or are you maybe working along with him, or?
Yeah, I'm keeping up my own. I actually have to do my some more classes too. So, but right now I've been so working on origination deals and kind of helping with some processing for a broker that get a little bit busy. But yeah, I'm keeping up for sure. Definitely an investment that I'm gonna keep up.
Okay, do you want to give your phone number for California people?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Phone number.
My number.
Writing on the bathroom wall here. Let's just keep it going.
My number is area code 323-523-7731.
Awesome. All right, thank you, and great to have you on the call. I really appreciate it.
Yay! I'm glad I made it. I get
Yeah.
so tied up that I miss them, or I'll catch in like the last 5 minutes or so, but I made it.
It's always a pleasure. There's just some really dear people that have been in my world for several years. So anyway,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Hi, Don. Good afternoon. This is Kishore from Michigan. How are you?
Kishore. Yeah, we talked.
We spoke. I'm sorry, I missed last couple phone conference calls. How are you? And thanks for being there again for all of us.
Oh, you're welcome. So what do you have to update us with, or remind us what we were talking about?
I took your counsel, and I've been trying to create a note of my own. I've been struggling to value. I'm looking at mobile homes valuation. I'm not sure I'm able to put my finger on it. If I purchase, let's say, and finance it, how do I value a property? Unlike in an automotive situation, there's a Kelly Blue Book. I'm not sure how to value a mobile home that sits on a piece of land. I'm not sure. Do you dwell in the mobile homes market at all, or you keep?
Yeah. So I've done mobiles in parks and some mobiles on land. The mobiles on land are preferable because at least if the person owns the real estate underneath, you don't have a land lease or a space rent that's really first priority lien. So there's at least something a little more tangible there. So in my town, you know what, like in the parks, like those NADA book value things that they have, to me are just sort of like the way you would look at the assessor's value of a piece of property. It maybe not even close to what market value is. Sometimes it can be close, but nothing. So like if I'm doing a mobile homes and parks, which I did a big project here in Carson City when I first moved here a couple years after, and it's just the going rate of what are they going for. It's really not having anything to do with some book value or appraisal or something like that.
So there's no published resource like a Kelly Blue Book?
Yeah, there is.
There is. Okay.
Yeah, for mobile homes, and I'm saying it's probably not the most relevant data point. So you just have to see what things are selling for in a certain market, So when I have the mobiles on land, I just see, well, what is that selling for? And then a lot of times you reverse engineer what going rents are and what people can afford. And then sometimes that's the value if you're carrying, which I often do on these assets. If I'm usually carrying paper, which can bite you a little bit in the parks because, someone defaults.
Right.
So, it's a higher default rate, it seems like, than normal. So if I know that if I did 10 loans, I know 25% of them at least are going to have some problem. Even if they put a big down payment. So what happens when they quit paying, I not only have to kick them out, but now I got $600 a month space rent that I have to keep up to avoid having my lien stripped by the park, who's going to basically foreclose on the mobile home if I don't pay space rent. So I can give up, 2 years worth of cash flow just carrying a property for 6 months. And of course, the manager is the one that, I can bring 25 buyers and they might just never decide to approve any of them. So they can just stretch out how long I have to keep paying space rent. So there's a high risk in that area. But the nice thing is that it's a low cost to get in. Like a lot of the mobiles, so you just have to go in with your eyes wide open. like I would be all in, let's say, in this park that I did a project in about 3 years ago, I want to say, started that. And let's say I was all in at 5 or 10,000, or at the worst 15, at the most 15, but anywhere from 5 to 15,000 I'm in for acquisition, rehab, all that. And then I can turn them around. I turned a lot of them around for 30, 35, and took a $5,000 down payment for the ones who didn't have cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I can basically double, triple my money, but the risk is high. The risk is high. So, but on the mobiles on land, at least you got the land. And I would much rather deal with that sort of asset or buy a note secured by a mobile on land way before I would buy paper, unless I got it at a screaming, special situation, screaming discount.
So Don, the question: mobiles on land. Does the mobile home owner pay rent on the mobiles on land? I don't think so, correct? Because you own the land, so
they should own the land. So the point is they're on the secured tax roll. They owe property taxes.
okay.
But just like with stick builts, but you don't have space rent generally on those assets. And if you have to take it back, if the mobile crumbles and falls apart because of deferred maintenance and it's old and crickety, at least you have the land and you got the infrastructure. You can pull on a new mobile and increase the value, plug it in and sell it for a lot more, right? So at least you own the dirt. So
I'm not getting, to be honest. I've been looking. I'm not getting anything under 20,000. So maybe I'm looking at the wrong market or something.
I would
go back to the drawing board.
Tell me where you are again.
Michigan.
Michigan. I have a note, a non-performing, crappy little note that I would like to dump in Michigan. Yeah.
What area?
It's exactly this kind of, I forget where, I'd have to look it up. I've been just like, I'd rather take a loss on this one than actually, get the brain damage of pursuing it. We were almost to a deed in lieu, cash for keys, blah, blah, blah. They already lived for, 18 months free rent on my dime, but that wasn't good enough. And so,
is this a mobile home or?
Yeah, it's a mobile home on land.
Oh, okay.
And so the land itself, just by itself, is 20,000, and then maybe the mobile is worth. This is very conservative, so all in the mobile and the land together should be worth like 40, 50. Sometimes you just take a haircut to stop the brain damage and quit throwing good money after bad, and just use your energy, your creative energy, to go toward what you want. How do I make more money, and not how do I clean up every little annoying thing. But you do get your seminars in this business. It's important to know that there is risk. Real life happens to real people. She just backed out of the agreement after I'd already invested money in bringing taxes current and getting an attorney involved. And I'm like, yeah. Now the attorney's saying that he might want to buy it from me, but just to put it out there, anyone in Michigan, you should email me if you want to take a look at it. I'm probably looking at taking $5,000 for something that's secured by minimum the land's, regardless of the condition of the mobile, minimum the land's worth 20.
Yeah, definitely. I can share my email.
Yeah, so anyone just email me, so we're not taking up more time with emails and numbers and stuff. But yeah, so support@notequeen.com for anyone who really thinks they might want to buy a problem from me. I'm willing to sell and move on, take my losses there. Okay, well, great to hear from you, and it's good to just hear real people going out there. Hey, how do I start? How do I get started? In this whole note business, owner financing and note business. So I love hearing that. So thanks for sharing that, Kishore.
Thank you.
Yeah, Axel. Yeah, thank you. Axel, let me just take a breather. We got about 13 minutes left.
Okay.
Anything that anyone has emailed in or chatted that I should be aware of?
We have it was an earlier question from Brian. He wanted to get an example of how to use a note to create cash flow for a seller that owns a home free and clear? How do they jump into the note game, if they own their home already?
And they don't want to sell the real estate. They just want to get money.
Yeah, via note.
Well, that's called getting a loan. That's called they're looking for an origination. So either they're trying to get a loan. Now there are, I know there's some people out there that they self deal, like, okay, one entity owns the property and another entity that they own, but they create this note, but it's all self dealing. And I know that some people are fine with that, not particularly, it's a little weird. I usually stay away from that kind of a thing, where it's been really hyper manufactured. So basically, if you have a lot of equity, you own the property and you don't want to sell it and you want cash, you go get a loan. So, and you'll get a note and a deed of trust originated from the bank or private money lender, something like that. So trying to create a note to then sell, it's just like, yeah, it's too much brain damage. Just go get a loan, That's what I would say. Now, it's interesting that in the last month, I've had 2 or 3 different scenarios come across my desk where we're trying to go, how can we do this? So the situation in all 3 cases has been that the note that they're paying on, the borrower's coming to us. The note that they're paying on has hit a maturity date, meaning the balloon payment is due. Like it's, they still owe a bunch of money and they haven't been able to get the cash to pay it off, or they haven't been able to arrange for a bank loan to take out the owner carry or the other private party. And so we've looked at going, can we, instead of, in fact, this is true on one I just, Pat, I don't know if you're still here or if David Kurtzman's on here, but we just closed on a note this last Friday, exactly like this, where the borrower said, hey, I'm at this maturity date, and I don't want to have to get a loan. I can't get a bank loan, and I don't want to get a private money, hard money loan. It's going to take too long. I'm already in hot water. I need a solution ASAP. So I go, okay, well, instead of making you a loan, I'm going to see if I can buy the existing note and then I can modify it for you. In this case, in our deal out in Hawthorne, on a 6-plex, she had 2 junior liens. So the first was the one that was up against the balloon that David and I bought, and the second and third was another $100,000 on top of it. So I didn't want to have to get subordination agreements from the second and third, right? So to keep the priority lien position of the first, we just took assignment of it and did a modification rather than do an origination. And in general, even though, and this one I liked because, it's an investment property. It's a business purpose loan. We're not dealing with a consumer situation. So it's a lot cleaner that way, but that was just slammed up easier. I still did the same underwriting I would as if I was going to make a loan. I still made a drive out there, took half a day, go out and back and look at all the rent rolls and meet the tenants and stomp around in every single apartment. So, anyway, but a lot of times the other 2 deals I couldn't make happen because it would just be too expensive. So sometimes it works that I can take an existing loan that's coming up against a balloon, and it's easier for me to buy that note and modify it for the borrower than it is to do an origination. But still, I'm still very careful. I can't raise their monthly payment, especially if it's any sort of consumer situation, because I don't want to, I don't want to get in trouble with or put that person in jeopardy that their DTI, their debt to income ratio, still needs to be very manageable for them, right? I don't want to, think I'm creating a solution and then I just put them in the same tight spot that they were before. And so sometimes it works. I can buy an existing note and modify it rather than do, but sometimes it turns out I can't because it's just too expensive, right? Like the amount of money I can bring to the table is too big of a discount. We can't cover the gap there. But I don't know why I said that. We got a few minutes left. I mean, I could go over that deal. If anyone has anything else they want to ask or share, or I could just say, here's the real numbers of how that actually worked. Something that might be fun for people. I don't know. It seems good right now in the last few minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, Don. Please complete your thoughts about the deal.
Okay, well, okay, so in this, I'm going to tell you about that deal in Hawthorne, which is a little town, basically Army outpost. I don't know if they're still there, but I think like the Army there's like, if you drive out there. Now, if you know Nevada at all, you know, where we are in Carson City and Reno, we're right next to the Sierras, right? But if you go east, it's just like desert for miles. And this little town of Hawthorne is based, there's an Army outpost there and just bunkers, like all these huge bunkers, just on and on and on and on. And I think they're for storing bombs and things, or for detonating old ones, or something weird like that. Or I'm not really sure, but it has its own little micro economy that's really heavily dependent on the military base. But anyway, it's been really a solid. There's not a lot of appreciation or depreciation, and there's you know, solid demand for rents that, you know, people have decent jobs. So this gal, she actually found me on Craigslist, of all places. I had just, you know, I keep on Craigslist. I buy houses and mobile homes, and also I buy promissory notes. And she just happened to be scouring, going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm up against this balloon, and I can't get a loan. I couldn't get the bank. You know, the credit union wouldn't put it together for me quite yet, or, you know, whatever. And so she found me, and she goes, I'm just wondering, what's this note thing? Do you think you can help me? So here's the deal. The property is worth well, she bought it. Now, I have to say, this is a little bit of a head tipper. And please don't do this. Please don't do this unless there's other circumstances. There's an appraisal on the property for $275, but she bought it for $250. But with, what can I write on? Oh gosh, like I'm not gonna do it. So basically, she bought it for $250. She got $150,000 first owner carryback, right? So the owner of the property lent her the property for 1 year at 8%, but due now, like May 22nd of this year. And that year came, you know, a year comes and goes pretty darn fast. So that was her first position, owner carryback. She put 0 down payment. Then she got a $50,000 second from someone she knows at 14% interest. And then she got a third $50,000 loan from someone she knows at 8%. Now, you would think that the third position person would be getting 14%. Second position might be willing to take 8%, but that third position loan is hanging out there in the wind, man. It wouldn't take much for the equity to disappear, especially if the first starts foreclosing, which she's making noise. She goes, actually, you know, I got my $250. I think I'd like to own this 6+ back again. I don't really want to work with you. I want my money, or I want the property back, which would have wiped out the $100,000 in the second and third. So anyway, I'm going, okay, well, if the appraisal's at $275, the gross rents are like $2,800. So the gross rent is 1% of the purchase price or the value of the property. So in my mind, when I'm in my area, when I'm thinking about, does this make sense as a rental? I go, well, how much do I have in it, and will gross monthly rents be 1% of my all-in acquisition and rehab? And if it's yes, then in my part of the country, then it's a pretty solid deal. So anyway, so what we ended up doing, I said, Maria, I think I can do this, but really, you've got a couple of options here. We can go long-term, and I'll bring, so $150 loan, she owed $149,000. There was a tiny bit of principal reductions. For all intents and purposes, she owed still the 150. And I said, I can do a long-term solution, but I'll only bring in like 132,000 to buy the $150,000 note, which means you've got to bring 18 to 20 grand to the table with closing costs just to make up for the discount. Or if you want to modify it to be equivalent to a hard money loan, and I said, what's your best alternative with a hard money loan? What can you get? And she said, well, if I did the brain damage of going through that process and they're not going to be as fast, I need something fast, she's going to start foreclosure on me. You know, it would be, I don't know, 3 points, 10%, interest only for 5 years. And I go, well, I could probably match that. But then I can only bring 142 to the table. So I would have given her a longer term and kept her rate the same, but I would have only brought in, let's just say 130. So that's like a $20,000 discount that she'd have, you know what I mean? I'll bring in 130 and she has to bring in 20 to keep the first person whole to get them to assign the note to us, her twins and I. I said, but if we modify it to 10% and put a 5-year cap on it, I can bring in 142,000. So you only have to bring in 8,000 to make up the difference of the discount. And she says, okay, let's choose that option. I said, are you sure? Because I may have to be hard line on that 5-year call. Are you 100% sure that you and your junior lien holders are fine with that? Yes, yes, yes. So basically what we did is I basically said, okay, I told the escrow and title, we're bringing in 142, but we still got 8 more to pay the first lien holder and closing costs. So call that another 1,000 or 1,500. And so now I brought in, you know, David, and he says, I'll do this deal. I'll do this deal with you. And I said, well, I got to get paid somewhere. And so what I did is I said, okay, Dave, you bring in 147. So what have I created as an upfront fee for me? I only am contracted to bring in 142, but I'm having my financial partner bring in 147, and he's still at, you know, 60 cents on the dollar here, right? There's $100,000 of equity that can disappear before he's going to lose money. So I had him bring 147. So there's $5,000 that I created as a deal maker spread for myself. And we modified the loan to interest only, 10% for 5 years. So the borrower now, she gets 5 more years on this maturity date, and she pays $1,250 a month. I brought David in and said he would be fine so he's on it for, he bought a $150,000 note for 147, so at a discount. So if he just was doing the whole, you know, shtick himself, his yield would be 10.5, right? And that meets his objective. But as it is, I asked him if he would take 9 because I'm going to be servicing it. It's a business purpose loan. I think it'll be pretty easy to navigate. So basically, I asked him to take 9% on 150. So what would that be? So he's taking basically, that's not exactly right. Yeah, I must have had him taking 11%. I might. Okay, I think I did the paperwork. I owe him more money than I said. Okay, so here's the deal. He's taking $11.25, and I'm keeping $25 a month just for servicing it. So I made $5,000 up front. My financial partner on this is making a solid 9% with an option to maybe own the property at some point or extend, you know, for different terms, things like that. So. And to me, I look at it as I got paid $5,000 for putting this deal together, $25 a month or so, you know, keeps me whole on this. And covers my headache for taking in the payments and all that. And then there's future plays here. Like, what if there's trouble and those junior lien holders need out? I hope it doesn't happen. I wouldn't want anyone to lose, their investment funds. But if something goes south, do you think they'd rather have a discount than be wiped out completely? So there might be opportunities for me to buy second and third lien holders off at a discount down the road. Now, I really hope that doesn't happen. But you can just see that if the first would have started foreclosure, they're at risk of being totally wiped off or having to keep the loan current and pay it off themselves. And I don't think any of those partners have the cash to do it. But anyway, so that's just one example of, instead of originating a note on the primary mortgage market, I bought an existing note on the secondary market and modified it to just create one solutions, just one mom and pop to another, which is a great way to wrap this call up. So use your powers for good and go out there and do likewise, like have fun, make money, and solve problems. And I really appreciate you being with me on this call. And if you want to check out the Property and Paper Summit, it's coming up on October 6th, 7th, and 8th, I want to say. And it is a very good time. It is a very small, intimate gathering. So be sure to check it out and grab your tickets early if you really want to join us at South Lake Tahoe for that. So anyway, thanks again. You're all wonderful. I appreciate you. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Don.
You've been listening to Virtual Coffee with Dawn Rickabaugh. For more, please visit notequeen.com.